Okay, today on the bench we have a nice little classic radio. It's a Teaberry Big T model. This is a 23 channel. It's crystal synthesized. It's a very basic, simple, not a lot of features radio. Bare minimum you need to get by. Actually, I guess you could say one extra thing does have the automatic noise limiter, but this is a customer's radio. Just got done replacing all the electrolytic capacitors in it and just did a transceiver alignment. Now if you hold on to the end of the video, I'll actually get it reassembled. Cover's in excellent shape on this, and we'll actually do a little bit of on-air listening. But it's actually a good working little radio. And for a crystal synthesized radio, and since this is an AM only radio, it does not have any adjustments for frequency. So you're basically stuck with whatever the crystal happens to be the crystals happen to be oscillating at. So unlike a sideband radio where you can adjust, all of the crystals will have a trimmer capacitor off of them that you can adjust. These are, and as you notice, there's also no fine tune or delta tune on this. So you're really limited by whatever the crystal's oscillating at. And being such, it actually receives fairly well. The crystals seem to be, for an AM radio, they're within spec. So I currently have it hooked up to the communications test set over here. We're going to be taking a Synod measurement. So we're going to be looking at this meter right here. I'll turn the volume up. And what we're looking for is a minimum 12 dB Synod with the lowest level, incoming signal level. And this one's right at, I might be able to turn it down just a hair. Okay, so I'd call that one right about 0.52 microvolts, or I got into amplitude here, or minus 112.7 dBm. So for an old crystal rig, that's actually not that bad. And here's what it looks like on the inside. Now you can see here's our one bank of crystals here and our other bank of crystals right here. Like I say, fairly basic radio, not a lot of fancy features. Controls, it has volume, squelch, a channel selector, and an A&L switch, and that's pretty much it. Now, one thing I always kind of find interesting, because you have to remember, this is an early solid-state radio, so this would have been early 70s vintage. One thing I always think is kind of neat-looking, those little round black hockey puck-looking things right there are actually diodes. So, a lot of people are familiar. Modern radios are used to seeing something like that. That's a diode like that, or even some vintage like this might have had color bands on it. But a lot of people haven't seen diodes that look like this. That's actually back in the day that would have been fairly standard in some of the earlier solid-state stuff. But other than that, nothing really fancy and special to look at on the inside of the radio. Now, the main power supply electrolytic capacitor has been greatly increased in size. Not that it needed it. It's just this capacitor does not mount to the circuit board. It's actually mounted in a can clamp. So here was the original. You can see it's a 2200 microfarad 25 volt cap. So that's actually the only thing I had that size that would fit in that clamp was a 10,000 microvolt 35 volt. So yeah, it's got way more filtering in the power supply now than it did before. Doesn't really need that much. It's not going to hurt anything. I mean, I always increase the values to start with, but yeah, that's the only way I could find a cap to actually fit in that clamp. A new one was to go with a 10,000 microfarad. So yeah, she definitely has lots of filtering now. But there you go. That's pretty much it. Like I say, there's not a lot to look at in them. They're a bit of a pain in the butt to replace all the electrolytic capacitors in. Not that there's that many. You know, you got there's a couple here, there's a couple of them crammed back underneath these wires here, and a few others floating around the board. The main problem is they're clinched leads, so the leads are bent over. You know, they install the component, fold them over 90 degrees on the board, and trying to get them unsoldered, get them unclinched, and I'll show you here in a second. There, you know, wiring harnesses on the underside. So actually, let me just turn this off, kill the AC power. We'll just get this stood up here for a second. Actually see the underside. Yeah, a lot of the caps and stuff falls underneath a wire as it almost tumbles over. Yeah, you got a lot of wires, caps under here, so yeah, actually it's easiest to just unsolder this one wire right here, because there's a couple of them dead underneath it right here. But yeah, like I say, this is back when they did most of the radio manufacturers did that, but they'd clinch the leads over at 90 degrees, clip them off, and then have a huge blob of solder on them. So yeah, it's fine for, you know, the first 3-4 decades, but yeah, when it comes time to replace components, they can be a bit of a pain in the neck trying to get them out. So there's the underside. There's the final inspection sticker. So when we get the covers put back on this guy, you can see what it looks like put back together, and we'll do a little bit of on-air listening. Okay, so here we have it hooked up to an antenna, and here she does receive. God forbid. I can't even stand that man's name.
But too many at one time. B-242, North Carolina, and I'm back out. Back out.
God, there's that jackass still talking about another jackass.
Him sitting over on that big moon anchor, man, that military antenna. Oh yeah, over on that big old Appalachian mountain, and letting a little small hill with a ground plane on it. Yeah, that old boy better be doing something. He might have to find something to burn, get some insurance.
As you can see, she sounds good. That's one thing I will say. You take this top cover off, wow, it really sounds horrible. Well, I say horrible. The tone or the pitch, audio coming out of the speaker is really bad. Actually, most radios are like that. If you remove the cover, they sound shitty. Because the cover acts as a, or the radio acts as a cabinet for the speaker. But this radio, wow, it's really bad. I mean, you want to talk about tiny sound with absolutely no bass whatsoever, take this cover off. Put the cover on, and it actually sounds really good. I mean, considering it is a small speaker, it actually doesn't sound bad. So it has an ANL.
Got over everybody, I'm telling you.
So, a lot of people might ask, oh, well, what good's this radio? And I often say, like in my area, AM's the thing. A lot of people, there's not a lot of sideband talkers. You have, what I call the evening crews get on channel 12 and 17. If you want to talk to the truckers, channel 19. This radio covers it. And, something, it does it with style. This is something that you just don't see in modern radios. Granted, the color, it is what it is. It may be for you, it may not. I think it's neat looking. I actually own one of these. Like I say, this is a customer's radio, but I actually own one of these, and I think they're neat looking. How many radios out there have style like this? They're black, they're silver, they're chrome, they all pretty much look the same. This is a really neat looking radio. It definitely has the dated, vintage look. And, especially if you collect radios, this is a great one to add to your collection, because this is one of those radios, if you had 100 radios on the shelf, this one will stick out like a sore thumb. It is an eye grabber with that color scheme. Like I say, you may or may not like the color. I think it's not my personal favorite for colors, that's for sure. But I actually like it. I think it works as a background color for a radio faceplate. So there you go. There's just a quick overview of the Teaberry Big T.